Your course means a lot more than you know. I had a stroke this year, and I've been using your course to relearn how to use my terminal. I had done tech for decades, and I've lost most of my memory and skills. It's making a huge difference. Dude, I don't even know what to say to that. That is an incredible comment to receive. Wow, I don't even know how to react to that. That is amazing. Dude, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you are getting something out of the course. I wish you well. What an amazing comment to receive. I'm so sorry that happened to you, but like, I'm so glad I could even play a small role in trying to help you like relearn this stuff. I'm glad that I could give you the resources and you can put in the work yourself, which you're doing. I'm flustered, man. What an incredible comment. I don't even know. What do you even say to that, dude? I'm so happy for you. Oh my God. So, I mean, yeah, I think my reaction during the live stream kind of said everything I needed to say. What could you possibly say? That's an incredible story. Yeah, I'll just end up reiterating anything I've said during that live stream. So yeah, I wanted to make this video to kind of share that story with the community and say that there's a cool little follow-up to that story, which is really exciting. So Random Logic, she is in my Discord, and she shared a repository for some scripts she's been working on and some configurations to create a streaming setup. So as part of like a healing journey from this stroke, she plans on streaming and is coming up with a bunch of different scripts and configurations to create a repeatable streaming setup. So I'll show you what that means right now. Let me just jump right into it. I won't waste time. Here's what she has. Here's what she shared to the Discord right here. So as you can see, it is a Docker container and Xvfb configs for repeatable streaming setup. So I think the idea here is to be able to run a couple scripts and create a setup that she can use to stream, like, you know, Twitch or YouTube or whatever she plans on streaming on. And these are all the configuration scripts that go with it. Now, I have my own set of scripts that I use to put all my windows in the right layout, so I can totally relate to this. When I was looking through this, I was like, hey, some of these bash scripts are like really good. I really like them. I have some small nits with them, things that I would change, and I would love to share this with my audience. Would you be open to it? So I could put the messages here. And she was like, yeah, go for it. Like, that'd be awesome. So here we are. That is great. So as you can see, she has invited me to collaborate on this repository. I will collaborate, but for right now, I'm not going to, because I also want to show you guys how I would go about making these changes. So, you know, she's giving me the special ability to collaborate directly on this repository, but if you're not me and you are not invited, that sounds so mean. I don't mean it like that. I'm going to show you how I would go about forking this repository, making changes and making a pull request. And this is actually a little preview of a future video where I plan on going through and showing how to like make pull requests and stuff like that. Cause I've had a couple people asking me that. I know in my videos, I'm always like, yeah, just fork it and make a PR. And there's a lot of heavy lifting required with that. So I plan on going through it. But for here, you're going to get a little sneak peek of it. All right, you ready? We're going to fork this repo right here. As you can see, random logic 0101/stream config. So we hit fork and we get this page. So we're going to create a new fork, Bahamas 10, that's my username, stream config is the name of it, copy, just the main branch only. You are creating a fork in your personal account. I love that it puts all this little stuff here, because that means people have probably created forks in like work accounts or stuff when they didn't mean to. Let's create that fork. So here we go. It's creating the repo. I think if I just refresh it, it'll be there. So now it's the same repo, but as you can see, it is forked from here. This branch is up to date with that. So now I can clone it, but it will clone it from the Bahamas 10 username. So if you forked it, it would clone it from your own fork, which is cool. This is what we want. So I copy that to my clipboard. Let's go here. I'm in my development directory and I can do a git clone of that, which I copied in my clipboard. And there we go. So it's the exact same files, but it's in my repository, meaning I can make changes and push it to my own branch so that I can make a pull request. We'll get into that as we get into it. So there are a couple things going on here. We have our README and our license. Let's go ahead and take a look at this and take a look at this. That is not what I want to run. So there we go. That is, wow. Guys, I swear I'm good at computers and I can type. There we go. Okay, so we have the license. It's all GPL3. Interesting choice. I know that's what the like bash source code is under. I typically put my changes over MIT license, but this is totally fine. And then what do we have? The README here. So, there's no syntax highlighting on this. It's kind of ugly that's not syntax highlighting it. Oh, you know why? Because it's not a markdown file. I think I can do this. There we go. So I'm going to tell BAT to treat it like a markdown file. No real big differences here, but at least there's some. Files in Emacs config live in .emacsd and make up the Emacs config for the host and Docker container. Awesome. We're not going to touch those because I don't know Emacs very well. All right, we're going to touch some of the Docker config stuff. Files in Docker config live in local source Xwm config and include the Dockerfile and helper scripts for setting up the Docker image and starting the image. Awesome. The system has been tested on a NixOS machine with AMD GGPU and AMD CPU running Wayland GNOME. The Docker container runs a pared down version of Arch latest. Cool. So you build a Docker container, launch the container with one image, then connect to the container with a VNC of choice. So this is really cool. This is a really cool way of creating your own little like virtual environment. I'd probably benefit from something like this, because for me, this is just my actual system that I log into, and sometimes I log into a virtual machine that I created. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. So let's jump into this. I want to review some of the scripts and kind of go over them because I think this project's really, really cool. So we have 4 things here. We have the Dockerfile and the entrypoint.sh. If you've ever messed with Docker files, you know that they typically have the entry point named entrypoint.sh. So that's kind of a convention. I would say let's look at the Dockerfile first. These are not bash. We're not looking at bash. This is just to configure Docker. So it pulls down the latest Arch Linux, sets some environmental variables, and then it runs all this stuff. So she goes through, she updates Pacman, she installs all the stuff that she needs. So there's like ffmpeg, git curl, vim, like a whole bunch of stuff. Wow, a ton of stuff. In case you're wondering what this green is, that is extraneous white space. That's what's highlighting there. I have that set up to highlight in my Vim. So I can go ahead and delete that. Not a huge deal, but I just prefer to clean up my files and not have them have extraneous white space. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. You can see right here. Copy the entry point over and then chmod the entry point. So again, this is classic Docker files have some sort of entry point. This looks like a tab. Nope, it's actually just 8 spaces. That's awesome. And yeah, so here we go. So it runs fc cache -vfv, which is to rebuild the font cache. And then finally it runs entrypoint.sh. Awesome. Let's pull open entrypoint.sh. And here is what we have. So the first thing you do is you set EUXO pipe fail. I'm going to break this down for people watching. Set -e, set -u, set -x, set -o pipe fail. This is effectively what's being run. You can just combine all of these into one set command. So I have a whole video on EUO pipe fail and why I don't like it. Some people like it, and that's totally fine. It's not my place to say that it's not my favorite, but it's really just not. But set -e tells the bash script, just exit, stop running whenever any sort of error is encountered, whenever any sort of command fails. This has a whole bunch of gotchas. Again, in my video, I cover all the gotchas there. U is a cool flag. It basically says create an error if you try to expand a variable that is not set. So if I try to echo $foo and $foo is not set, it will actually crash the program as opposed to just expanding to nothing. It can have unintended side effects when you're dealing with like arrays and stuff on older versions of bash. I tend to stay away from it, but this one's the least harmful one, I would say. -x, this one's not even part of the strict mode. This is totally its own thing. This is just forced debug output. You can run bash -x or set like or you can trap like a debug command. But yeah, this will it'll print every single command it runs. And then set -o pipe fail. This means any part of a pipeline fails, because normally it's just the last command, but if any part of a pipeline fails, consider it an error or bubble up the error message. And this, when paired with set -e, basically says if any part of a pipeline fails, quit the whole thing. People call this strict mode. They have all sorts of names for it. I don't love it, but I don't care if someone else uses it because sometimes it is the right thing to do. So I'm going to leave it as is. I'm not going to change it, and we will have to work around it. So we start the exwm container. We set some variables. So we have display :99 and then a VNC port. We're exporting them so they go into our user's environment. Hey, that's totally fine. We do have things here like $username. So I did not see those set in the entry point. I believe they are set in the Docker container. Yeah. So the fact that they're an arg, this means that like Docker run and stuff can take these. So we are getting these passed in from something. I don't actually know exactly where these are coming from. I'm guessing build image. We're jumping the gun here. I'm thinking build image will probably call Docker run with a username thing set. Yeah, okay, call Docker build with that. So we're going at this a little bit out of order, but that makes sense. I've seen things like this before. So these variables are just expected to be there. If they're not, then because we have set -u set, this will fail. This line would just completely fail if username is not defined. So we have a list of font directories, and then we rebuild the font cache from the host. So we loop over the directories. If it's a directory, then we run this. Else, we just skip the non-existing directory. So the small nit I would have here is this is all totally fine. All of this is totally fine. This logic makes perfect sense. I just typically use the double square brackets when in bash. In fact, I think if you scroll down a little bit, I did do a little peek ahead. I want to say, oh, maybe not in this script. I want to say that she switches sometimes between using double and single brackets. Nothing wrong with the single brackets, but I prefer the double. They're built into Bash and they have more strict rules around things. So I could actually, you can omit these quotes right here and it's not going to make a difference. That's what I love about the double square brackets, because I'll show you. The single square brackets are shell built in, but the double square bracket is a shell keyword. So it has different rules when it comes to parsing. You don't have to quote a lot of the variable expansions. There was nothing wrong with how you have it. This would just be a nit. Because we're on the topic of nits, I don't like if statements that branch into two separate things, especially when one of them is to do nothing. So I would reverse this. This is a stylistic choice. You don't have to do this. Code how you like to code, but I will show you what I would do. I would move this up here. I would say if it's not a directory, then we will continue. What are you using for indentation? You're using 4. Let me do that real quick, actually. TS bash 4. All right, so now we're using 4 spaces for bash. TS is something I wrote a long time ago. I know people are going to ask me. I wrote this thing called tab stop a long time ago that allows me to control its own thing. I'll link about it in the description. I should probably make a video on it. But it controls this file for me, vimrc.local. And that's not right. Hold on. vimrc.intent. So it actually manages this file for you under the hood. So it sets bash and shell. So it changed bash to be 4 and 4. So I can do ts bash 4, and now bash is 4 spaces. When I'm done, I'll set it to tabs, and then it will put it to no expand tab with 8 and 8, which is how I like it. But let's go ahead and set this to 4 so I can work with this project without having to change the way I indent things. So let's go back into the entry point, I believe it was. If it's not a directory, then we will echo skipping non-existent directory, continue. Now we can do this. There we go. And there we go. Okay, cool. So now we have for dir. If it's not a directory, we skip it and we hit continue and we're done. We have broken out of the if statement. That's beautiful. Then down here, we know it does exist, so we can just echo and do our work here. This is good in case there was like future expansion stuff you have to do. This is how I prefer to program. Again, personal preference. You might not like this. You might be like, Dave, I actually hate this change. So don't merge it in. This is totally up to you. These are my nits when it comes to this. Starting Xvfb on display. Cool. You run this. This is commented out, probably just something you were messing with. So you start this Xvfb on whatever display you're running on, which I think was :99. And this is your resolution. Awesome. Huge resolution. Nice DPI. That's awesome. And you put in the background. The next thing you do is you get the PID of the thing you have just put in the background. Awesome. Cool. I've seen this before. So now you wait for it to become ready. So you run this command xdpyinfo-display with the display arg. You throw out all of the output here. I'm going to show you a cool little thing you can do. Again, don't feel like you have to do this. So you're doing this very verbose. You're redirecting the standard out to dev null and then redirecting to go there. In bash, you can actually do this if you wanted to. This is a shorthand syntax, which is, it's been around for a while. I don't remember what version was introduced. This will throw out both standard out and standard error at the same time. So you could do that. I'll leave it out for now, but that's totally something you consider doing. So you're using an until loop, which is pretty cool. I don't think I've talked about these much, but it's like the opposite of a while loop. Really nice. So until this command returns success, you're going to sleep for 0.5 seconds. So you're going to run this command in a loop until you are ready to go. My nit here is that what if it takes forever? I mean, it's your setup and it probably doesn't. My only concern, what I like to do here is I like to throw in an escape hatch. So I like to do something like, let's say I equals 0. We'll do an I++ here. You could do like if I is greater than, 100, just whatever numbers you want, made up numbers. I would do something like this. And then you could say like, uh-oh, failed to whatever. And then you can exit 1. So you could do something like that as a sort of like poor man's escape hatch, just so you don't ever get stuck in an infinite loop. Again, I don't think this is a huge issue. I'm actually just going to remove it for now, but that's something I would consider doing. Okay, the next thing you do is you start X11 VNC. This was missing. Don't know what that means. That might have been a comment to yourself. Not exactly sure what that means. But you start this, you have a bunch of arguments to it. That's cool. You also put it in the background and you also get its PID. Nice. So to detect if it's up, you use SS, which I think is like in Linux, that's like a netstat style command, right? You guys might have to tell me in the comments. Another utility to investigate sockets. Yeah, is it like sockstat or socket statistics? Is that what it's supposed to be? Because I know FreeBSD has sockstat, we have netstat on Illumos, so it's got to be something like that, I'd have to imagine. So what do? You do ss, tln, I mean, even that looks like netstat style commands. TLN, so man ss -t, TCP, I'm guessing L is for listening, and N is probably no DNS resolution. Do not try to resolve service names, show exact bandwidth values instead of human readable. Oh, okay. So a very numeric machine parsable style output. Okay. SS-TLN. I guess I could run that, couldn't I? How many times am I going to keep SSHing into the same machine? Okay, so this is what it looks like. So I can see that, you know, like I have SSH listening here, and then this is probably the Nagios remote program execution thing, I think, NRPE. Okay, so this is what the output looks like. All right, so here's the deal. You're running that, and you're checking to see that something is listening on the VNC port. This is probably fine. I will tell you, this is totally pedantic, but your VNC port is 5900, and you're checking to see that it has colon, the Q is for quiet, colon 5900 as the listening port. So it'd probably look, you know, something like this. You might want to search for something beyond that too. And what I mean by that is, what if I started a service on port 599001? Technically, that's a valid port. It's within the 16-bit like number range. It might be an ephemeral port. I'd have to double check that. But I could do that, and then suddenly this grep matches that. So you probably want something like not a 0 through 9 here. That's not a valid regex for grep, but like that's the idea. There may be a better way to check, is something listening on that port? So again, this is fine for like a quick and dirty thing. And honestly, with your setup and your Docker, it's probably going to work 100% of the time. I would just like to find, if this were my script, I would look into a way of asking SS, is there a way to find just a specific like port? Pulling something out of that. So it looks like it does support some expressions. You might be able to say like, hey, just find port 5900. There may be other utilities that do it. You might also be able to netcat localhost 5900, send something to netcat's not even installed. You might be able to send something to it and get like a version number back. That's a really cool way of seeing if the service is up and running. But that's just something to keep in mind. That's something I would be cognizant of about. Oh my God, yeah. Do you have like you might even just have a VNC client. There might be a VNC client CLI tool installed that you might be able to say like, hey, are you able to connect to this, or just try to do a connection? I would look for a Nagios plugin, some sort of thing like that, to see if there's a Nagios plugin to check if a VNC server is up, and then see how they're doing it. That's kind of where I would go there. I think it's outside the scope of the video for me to research that specifically, but that's if you really cared about making this cleaner. Although I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I know what it's doing. Like, you know what I mean? All right, so you start Emacs, makes perfect sense. And then you echo container fully started, and then you run wait. You run wait with no arguments. So I believe it'll wait for everything, right? If ID is not given, waits for all currently active child processes and return the status to 0. Cool, awesome, that makes sense. So you wait for every single thing that you forked off in the background to finish before the Docker container will tear itself down. The entry point will exit. So that makes perfect sense for me. So the other two things that we have here to consider are build image and run image. So let's go ahead and take a look at build image. Let's go up here. So we have our EUO pipe fail. I've already talked about that. I'm not the biggest fan about it, but you know, that's fine. You have host UID, host GID, and username. So IDU, IDG, and IDUN. So if we look at these, ID-U is 501, ID-G is this, ID-UN is the name. Technically speaking, because you are in bash, assuming this shell, the script is running in bash, which you have the bash shebang up here, then you can get that information without having to fork out to ID. You have UID, you have GID, and you have, apparently you don't have GUID. I thought you had GID. Wait, hold on. I swear that GID was a thing. Apparently it's not. It looks like there is a all cap groups, and I can get all of the groups that I'm a part of, but it doesn't look like it tells you which one is my specific groups. It looks like it's showing you supplemental groups. Maybe the first one is the group that you're in. I I could have sworn GID was a thing. Apparently it's not, and I'm making it up. So you know what? Having said all that, maybe what you have here is fine, okay? I know for a fact user exists, and I know for a fact UID exists. There's also EUID for your effective UID. This can change like sudo and stuff like that. I know those exist. I was not, dude, I could have sworn on my life that GID was a thing, man. Like, dude, okay, you learn something new every day. That's crazy. So yeah, we're back in it now. There's a couple things you can do here. You're using $home. $home's a fine expansion. You could get rid of the quotes here, and you can just do this. The tilde will expand because it's at the leftmost side of variable expansion, and it also expands when it's the leftmost side of a colon variable expansion. Sounds super weird, but let me show you what I mean. If I echo Dave tilde, we just get Dave tilde, but if I echo hi, it will resolve to my home directory /hi. That's awesome. But if I have like foo / that, then it won't resolve. If there's a colon here, then it may resolve depending on certain rules. This would be in variable when I'm setting a variable. So if I say var equals this and then I echo $var, then it does expand because it's to the right of a colon or at the very beginning of a variable. Very specific rules. But long story short, if you wanted to, you could totally do this. This is totally valid. You just can't quote it. If you quote it, then it causes it to break. So if you prefer quoting all your strings, then I would stay away from that and keep doing what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with it. All caps home will work just fine. But something to keep in mind, you could definitely make that change if you wanted to. All right, so the next thing we do here, and I've seen code like this. This is not me disparaging random logic. Don't worry, she's fine. I don't love Docker. I just don't love the output of Docker. ps-q-f, and then you have a filter for the name you're looking for. Docker will just give you, I think it's like new line separated values. So you're storing them in this type of data, which is not great because I'm imagining, before I even look down, you're going to put, Docker stop, and then that. It's not a problem here. You're quoting it here, and I think there can only ever be one. This might break if you have multiple containers with the same name. Just something to keep in mind. I don't think that's an issue. But again, same thing here. You could put the double square brackets here. You don't need them, and if you do that, you don't have to quote this. This is my own personal style. Again, these are nits, not a huge deal. But stopping running container, container name, parentheses, existing container. That's cool, so we actually get its ID. And then you run docker stop in the existing container. So all build image does right now is it sets up some variables, and then it removes the container if it's already there running. So it kind of creates a clean slate for us. And then we do the if docker images -q. So we look for the image name, and if it's there, then we go ahead and remove it. This pipe true is required because of the set EUO pipe file. So that's our way of saying override set EUO pipe file and don't actually stop if something breaks. Then we echo, do you want to purge all Docker images, containers, blah, 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 blah. And then you do a nice little read on it. That's totally fine. And then you check to see if they gave you something that looks like a Y. This is a regex format. So yeah, this is fine. This will work as is. I don't think this will break as is. Regex can be kind of weird because of the rules on how the right-hand side of a double square bracket is parsed. One of the bash pitfalls I got from the WooLedge wiki is to put your regex in their own variables like this. And then when you have this, you can just call the regex here. You'll see I always do it this way. You don't have to. I don't actually know if I could get this to break. Let's try it. Let's try to get this to break, right? Because what you're doing, let me see. This might not even make the video. You're doing something like this. So let me copy this out. Let's see what we can do here. So you have a regex like that. Let's just change this to like a string of like Y, just so the user typed Y, and then we can echo $? Okay, so that gives us a 0 because it does match that. A capital Y should also give us that because it matches. That's fine. Anything else should fail, including the empty string. It needs to have something there. That makes perfect sense. The only way I could think of this failing is if a file exists named Y on our system, because then it might do wildcard expansion. I don't think it will. I think I'm being overly pedantic, and yeah, I think this is probably fine. I don't think it's going to do any sort of weird expansion. I just don't know. So that's one of those things where I've been bitten by it in the past, so I tend to put regex in their own variables, but you don't technically have to. I don't know if it could cause any problems. I'm so skeptical of it. I'm just worried because I have been bitten by it in the past. So stop all running containers, ps minus q, pipe it into xargs. Yeah, I see. This is what I was talking about, Docker. You see so much pipe into xargs because it just returns new line separate data. Not a problem. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just an interesting way of doing it. There's no like easy way for me to, Docker stop and then give it the name of all things, or Docker remove and then give it the name of all things. Like, you have to use two different commands and pipe one to the other. So it's interesting. You think as a shell guy, I would love that, but I would actually like a way for me to say, Docker, find all the containers like this and also delete them at the same time without having to go pipe filters into yourself. But regardless, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this. This makes perfect sense. We stop all the running containers. You do a lot of stuff here if they want to clean Docker, but that makes sense because that you've asked the user if they want to do this, and then you go through and basically do a whole bunch of stuff here. Again, here in this situation, I wouldn't swap the two because you still have to go to the bottom of the if statement no matter what. So it doesn't really make a difference. So I think it's totally fine as is. If this were in a function, then I would advocate for an early return, but we're not in a function. We're just going from top to bottom, which is fine. I think that's a totally fine way for the script to go. This is a very like shell script looking bash script, which makes sense. You read it from top to bottom. We're not doing like crazy control flow stuff here. Building Docker image this with UID this with GID that. That's awesome. And then you run your Docker build command there, and then you built it successfully. Awesome. Okay. And because you're using set EUO pipe fail, you do know that it's successful. You won't get this message if it wasn't successful. So cool. Yeah, that makes sense to me. The last thing we have is your run image script. So this one only has set minus E. Interesting. Okay. Oh, and this one you use the $user variable. So that's cool. So so you use it in one script, you don't use the other. I would prefer to always use it. It's just this GID thing, man. Dude, that threw me off. I could have sworn GID was a thing. That's so funny. All right, so stop and remove any running containers from this image. Check running containers from the image. This is interesting. You can give it an ancestor of an image. That's cool. I didn't know this was a thing. Makes sense. I don't use Docker super often, but you can find all of the Docker images that are an ancestor of that. So the progeny of that image, I guess. Maybe that's a way of saying it. I don't know. Again, same thing here, not a big deal. I would just totally be using the double square brackets. Almost always use double square brackets because it's a keyword, not a built-in, so slightly different parsing rules. And it's way more, I would say it has tighter parsing rules. Less things can go wrong, in my opinion. Same thing though, running containers could be multiple things. So look, you're passing it like this without the quotes. In your situation, you probably don't want the quotes because in reality, this probably would have been a Docker PS, pipe Q, filter, blah, 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 pipe into that. That makes sense, but instead you just have them like this. It's not my favorite. I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming Docker. So that makes sense. Looks like some stuff has been commented out, not a huge deal. And then you run this. So you should quote this also. You quote all your other expansions. I would definitely say whenever you have an expansion, you can quote it. And you don't have to quote just the expansion itself. You can just quote the entire thing because you want this passed to Docker as one argument itself. So you could totally do it like that. And that is totally legit. Okay, the display, the username, the ports, 5900 for VNC, 8080 for some sort of web thing, I'm guessing. Yeah, that makes sense. You put in the background, image name, I would like to quote that. Even the container name should probably be quoted. I can't imagine there are spaces in them. Yeah, there's no spaces in that. So definitely quoted. And if there were spaces, that's when you'd want it to be quoted. So that's what I get for talking out loud without thinking. Sleep for 5, interesting. Sure. Whenever I see sleeps for specific amounts like this, I'm always wary of it. Weary or wary? Hold on. Someone corrected me on this recently, and I want to make sure I say it right. I'm doing my best. If you catch me using words like incorrectly and you're like, oh, sometimes Dave's pedantic, but he seems to get these words wrong, it's probably because I don't know. So feel free to correct me. I do appreciate it in the comments. I get a lot of people telling me about parentheses and parenthesis. No, wow, that's so wrong. Parentheses and parenthesis. It just sounds stupid. It probably is right. So sometimes I say parens. I've been using weary and wary interchangeably, and they are not interchangeable. So feel free to correct me on that. I don't mind. Wary means cautious, alert, or suspicious of danger. And weary means physically or mentally exhausted. Okay, so wary is when I'm afraid, and weary is when I'm tired. Got it. So yeah, I'm wary of code with the sleep for a magic amount of time, because I just never know what that time is. It seems like you just know that it's going to take that long. If anything, I would just go into this loop right away, maybe. It's not a huge deal. Just whenever I see a sleep like this, I'm always just, why? What's the point? Like if you're waiting for a port to be active, just wait for the port to be active. I see that you probably want to print something to the screen. You probably would be flooding the screen. Again, I don't even think that's that big of a deal. Maybe only print one every iteration or something. Truly, it all depends on how you want to do it. This is up to you, random logic. This is your script. I would just do something like this. I would just sleep for 1 second and then just comment this out like that, or delete that. That's what I would do. Like I'm not in that much of a rush. But yeah, I'm always just concerned. I'm wary when I sleep for a magic number. And cool, then the VNC server is up, and then you wait for the container PID. I think the container PID is one thing, so you could just do this. Technically, I think you can just wait for nothing because it is the only thing in the background. So you might even be able just to completely remove that. But yeah, those are kind of the big scripts. Those are kind of the main files there. I would say those are the big ones. So it's cool that we got to review them. Let's see what they actually do, right? Let's SSH to void. We can make dir random logic. I don't have a Linux desktop to test this on, but I do have a Linux virtual machine, so maybe that's enough. Void random logic, SSH void random logic, and there we go. There's our 4 scripts. I do have Docker running on this, I believe. So yeah, I do have a Docker instance running. We've looked through the scripts. They don't look that scary to me. You pull down Arch Linux and you install some stuff, and then you install some stuff, and then you make some groups and you change some locales, and then you run the entry point. And it's a lot of time just spent rebuilding the font cache, which I've used Linux on the desktop. I remember doing that. So yeah, let's see. I guess let's just see what happens. If we run build image, that'll fail. Let's go ahead and run it as sudo. Again, this is a virtual machine, so I'm not super worried about this machine. I rebuild it a lot for these videos, so let's see. No, let's not do that. Cool. So let's go ahead and actually build some stuff here. And this will be cool because the UID will be 0 and the GID will be 0. I don't know if she ever anticipated that someone would be running this as root. I don't know what her setup looks like, so this will be a lot of fun to see. So yeah, I would say let's let this go, and I'm going to grab something to drink. I'll be right back. It just said retrieving packages. What did it do while I was gone? Hopefully I'm setting a good example for you guys. It's really important to run things on your terminal and then leave and let it do its thing when it has root privileges. That's important too. Oh, hey, look at that. Something's happening here. Look at that. There's a lot to download. I want to take a moment to remind you guys that this is not sponsored content. I am not sponsored. I am a small YouTuber, but I'm on my way to 100,000 subscribers. So if you're watching and like what you see, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I think I have 91,000 at the time of this recording, so that is super cool. And today we are enjoying some A&W Zero Sugar Cream Soda. Not sponsored, by the way. I just really like this drink. So yeah, hit the subscribe button. That'd be super cool. I would love that. I like seeing that number get bigger. It is a vanity metric, and that's all I got. My streamer instincts are kicking in, and I'm starting to yap while this is doing something because I'm trying to be entertaining, but I'm recording a video. I can just cut this part out. Hey, you know what's cool? While that's running, we could open up another terminal, go into void, go into here, and run our CPU visualization tool that we wrote on a previous video, so we can see that the CPUs are actually burning away. Work is being done in this machine. That is super cool. If you want to see how I wrote this, I'll have a video link below. You can see it here. Yeah, we wrote this as part of a video, so this whole visualization is in, of course, Bash, Born Again Shell script. So I have a whole video on how we wrote that. But we can see htop. Let's see, is it actually running? Oh yeah, it's all Docker D stuff. So that makes sense. So Docker's churning away. Stuff is happening. That's great. Oh, here's an interesting thing I didn't think of. Because I'm running it as root, it's actually trying to create that group for me, which is not going to work because it already exists. We're trying to create all this stuff when we really don't want to. So I don't want to modify the scripts too much. That seems like it's going to be super annoying. But I also don't have an easy setup to run it as a non-root user. So we'll have to figure out how to work around this. I think if we just comment this out, it should be enough. All right, so I think we're getting past that now. So this will be cool. We'll see what happens. Look at that. Xvfb virtual built successfully. So I think you can do, was it Docker image ls? Is that what works? Okay, so I do have some stuff on here. I don't even remember what I have on here. That's crazy. Xvm virtual. Okay, cool. Awesome. So now we have our, what is it, run image script. So we already looked through this. It does some stuff here. It's really not, yeah, nothing crazy happens. It just runs. So let's go ahead and run image. Docker image started, PID this, waiting for VNC on port 5900. VNC server is up. All right, cool. So if we do I have to remember these Docker commands off the top of my head. Docker PS shows me this, and we have 8080 and we have 5900. Okay, so I don't actually think there was anything running on 8080. I think that might just be an escape hatch for anything that possibly is eventually to be running on 8080. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's much happening there. So I'm going to assume that it's just the VNC for 5900. So, all right, what am I doing wrong? Let's pull up the logs for this. And let's try and recreate the VNC connection. Okay, so that closed. Let's open up a new VNC connection for my Mac. None of this is being shared to OBS, so that's super annoying. I can see it's connected, but I don't see anything on the VNC itself. I just see a black screen. I don't know if that's intentional. I thought Emacs was supposed to start with it, so I'm a little bit surprised to see Emacs is not running. But there might be something that I'm just missing here about this setup. I guess I could try something crazy, right? So you guys can't see it, but it's just a black screen. Can I do exec-it exwm run bash, and now we have a bash shell inside here. So do I have things I could fire open? Is it like Firefox? This probably won't work. I might have to actually... Oh my god, it opened up. You guys can't see it. Alright, so here we go. So I was able to VNC, as you can see at the top here. Actually, I don't know if this is visible. 10.0.1.141. Or sorry, .41. Yeah, that's the void. That's the void VM IP address. So as you can see, we have Firefox running here. I don't know what this font is. This is insane. Can I type in here? Yeah, none of this is right. There's my website, so it was able to load ysap.sh. So whoa, that almost looked wild. What was that? Let's see when it loads in. No, that looked fine. Okay. Here is a Linux image of Arch running inside Docker, running inside a Beehive virtualized machine, running inside an Illumos zone jail. Wow, I'm in the FreeBSD world. An Illumos zone running on Illumos hardware. And all of this is being passed over VNC to my Mac. So this is hilarious. This is the VNC viewer option up here. So yeah, you can run things on this Docker image, and then you could tear it down and reconnect into it and then stream off of it, and you would have a completely isolated machine. This is great. There's like no chance I'm accidentally going to pull up my email or dox anything important. So yeah, this totally works. I just had to run Firefox in the terminal. So if I Control-C Firefox, which I think you guys can see that. Yeah, look at that. It just went away. So Firefox quit. Is there anything else? Do I have like Xeyes or anything? Does that exist? Is that still a package? I don't know. Is there like Xcalc or anything? Xclock. There we go. Now we have a clock running over here. So yeah, there we go. There's Xclock running for you. Wow, this is a nightmare. So yeah, if you can't see the terminal, I just ran Xclock and then it popped open this little clock over here. So that is really cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and kill the VNC viewer. That's awesome. So now we can quit out of this and we can do a sudo docker ps, and we can do a sudo docker stop exwm run, and there we go. So so it works, and these were all the changes that we made as part of it, so it all works. So I don't know why it's not stopping. I don't know if something's running still. Okay, that looks fine to me. It stopped. Awesome. So there we go. That's awesome. So yeah, we tested it and it works. I guess the only thing left to do would be to submit those changes, right? I don't remember if I made anything worth submitting. I think I did some tilde expansions, some double square bracket things. I apparently added extra space. Oh, because I got rid of some extra space. And yeah, so nothing too huge here, nothing too crazy, but I will show you how to do it, at least just for sake of completeness. So as you can see, we are in the stream config directory here, git remote show origin, and you'll be able to see that we are in the Bahamas 10 one. So this is my username, so we are in our own fork here. Okay, so we are here. So now we can do a git checkout -b, or some people might yell at me. I think you can do a git switch -c. Both of these to create a new branch. So let's go ahead and create a new branch. What I like to do is I like to put my name or something with it. So I can do like Dave Small Knits, and there we go. So if we do a git branch, you can see that we are on Dave Small Knits here. And then we can go through and double check. Do I like all these changes? Yeah, these are, nothing here is too crazy, too show-stopping. So now we can do a git commit, and this won't work because we've modified all these, but we haven't added them. You could do a git commit -a, which will pull in all the modified files. I like to do this. People yell at me. I like to git add the directory that has it, and then just, that will do everything in the directory. Some people git add dot. I've definitely done stuff like that. Now, if we do a git status, we can see that they're modified, but they're green, so they are staged. They're ready to go. Git commit. So very small style nits, LOL. I don't know if these even make sense to merge, but I had a lot of fun making them during the video, LOL. There we go. So now that we have that, we can do a nice little git push here, and this will push it to my branch. Nope, hold on. Git push origin head. There we go. And this will push it to my repository, but it'll push a brand new branch there. So if we go back to the web browser and we go back to the stream config here under the Bahamas 10 name, remember, look at this. Dave's small knit head pushes 9 seconds ago. I can compare and pull request. If this doesn't come up, you can click here, and there you'll see the branches there. If this also doesn't come up, sometimes clicking the pull request button can actually just like bring it up. So let's go ahead and compare and pull request. So cool. So the base repository is random logic. The head repository is Bahamas 10 stream config. And I want to pull from this branch into the main branch of stream config. Very small style nits, LOL. I don't know if these even make sense to merge, but I had a lot of fun making them during the video, LOL. Did GitHub change their UI recently? This is more like a WYSIWYG editor, and I remember I like mine plain because I just like to do Markdown on my own. I could have sworn it was always more plain than this. Not a big deal, but yeah, we have one commit here. Here's what all the changes look like in GitHub format, so that's beautiful. So let's go ahead and create the pull request. And there we go. So now the pull request has been created. She will get notified of this. She'll probably get like some sort of email or something on GitHub. And I don't know if these even make sense to merge, but I had a lot of fun. So there we go. So she can look through them. She can see the files change. She can scroll through them here and be like, oh, okay, interesting. I don't care about any of this. Closing, I think Dave's lame. So, that's at her discretion. So yeah, that's all I got for you. Hopefully it was fun going through this. I'm excited to see what Random Logic does in terms of streaming. I look forward to hearing this journey of health, really. I'm so glad that my content and just like bash stuff like that and the course and stuff has been helpful and has helped someone during a journey of healing when it comes to recovering from a stroke. I mean, that is crazy. Like I said, everything I've said during the live stream pretty much sums up how I feel. It is an incredible story. I'm so sorry that she had to go through that, but it sounds like she is handling it with strength and grace, and it's amazing to see. It's very uplifting and it's motivational. So that's awesome. I wish her all the best. I wish her good health in this, and yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of it. So yeah, we'll see what happens, and by the time this video comes out, we'll see if the pull request has been merged. So that'll be kind of fun. And yeah, I think that's all I got for you. So let me just go ahead and give a quick shout out. Shout out to Random Logic. Thank you for letting me do this. I think this is a ton of fun. Thank you for sharing your story on my live stream. I think that's amazing. I love seeing the impact I can have on people in the community. And thank you all of my patrons over at Patreon. Thank you for your continued support. This is so awesome. If you want your name at the end of my video, take a look. There's a lot of names here. Go to this URL right here, ysap.sh/Patreon, or patreon.com/usuckerprogramming. I think that's what it is. Hopefully that's right. I'm pretty bad at advertising my own stuff. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. We're at 91,000 subscribers at the time of this recording. Let's try and hit 100,000 subscribers. I have nothing planned as of yet, but I have a lot of stupid ideas for it. So we'll do something fun for 100,000 subscribers. So yeah, that's all I got. Thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, that's it from me. See ya.